A sign in a restaurant window reads, "If you order it and we don't have it, you instantly win $1 million." A man walking by notices the sign and walks into the restaurant, sitting down with a smirk. The waiter asks for his order, and the man requests white rhinoceros stew. Surprisingly, the waiter returns with a steaming bowl of exactly that. The man, taken aback, eats the expensive meal and leaves angrily after paying. The next day, he returns with the same smirk and orders bullet ants stuffed with dolphin meat. The waiter promptly brings him his requested dish. Once again, the man, surprised, eats his meal, pays, and leaves in frustration. On the third day, the guy returned to the restaurant and said, "I'll have an elephant ear sandwich." The waiter returns with a giant bag with $1 million. The guy says, "Ha, no elephant ears, right?" The waiter replies, "Nah, we're out of those giant buns." A prince was put under a spell so that he could speak only one word each year. If he didn't speak for 2 years, the following year he could speak 2 words, and so on. One day, he fell in love with a beautiful lady. He refrained from speaking for 2 whole years so he could call her my darling. Then he wanted to tell her he loved her, so he waited 3 more years. At the end of these 5 years, he wanted to ask her to marry him, so he waited another 4 years. Finally, as the 9th year of silence ended, he led the lady to the most romantic place in the kingdom and said, "My darling, I love you. Will you marry me?" And the lady said, "Pardon?" A man absolutely hated his wife's cat and decided to get rid of him one day by driving him 20 blocks from his home and leaving him at the park. As he was getting home, the cat was walking up the driveway. The next day, he decided to drive the cat 40 blocks away. He put the beast out and headed home. Driving back up his driveway, there was the cat. He kept taking the cat further and further, and the cat would always beat him home. At last, he decided to drive a few miles away, turn right, then left, past the bridge, then right again, and another right until he reached what he thought was a safe distance from his home and left the cat there. Hours later, the man calls home to his wife, "Jen, is the cat there?" "Yes," the wife answers. "Why do you ask?" Frustrated, the man answered, "Put that son of a on the phone. I'm lost and need directions." A farmer buys a new rooster to replace his old one and puts him in the chicken coop. The new rooster walks up arrogantly to the old rooster and says, "Out of the way, old man. These are my hens now. Your time is done." The old rooster rolls his eyes. "All right, fine. I get it. I'm old. But I still have some living left to do and won't give up my hens so easily. There's only room in this coop for one of us. Let's settle it this way. We race around the coop, the winner stays and the other goes." The young rooster agrees to the challenge. The old rooster says, "But listen, I'm not the young one I once was. You have to give me a 5-second head start to make it fair." The young rooster agrees to these terms. When race time comes, the young rooster counts down to start it. 3, 2, 1, go. The old rooster takes off running, giving it his all. After 5 seconds, the new rooster takes off after him. As they round the first turn of the race, the new rooster is already about to catch up to the old one, right on his heels. The farmer is sitting on his porch watching. He stands up, grabs his shotgun, and shoots the young rooster, leaving only some blood and feathers. He says, "Dang it! That's the 3rd gay rooster I've bought this month." A man walks into a bar and orders a 21-year-old whiskey. He takes a sip and then spits it out. "Oh, I asked for a 21-year-old. This is 18 years. I'm not paying. Give me a 12-year-old cognac." The bartender serves him, and the man spits it out again. "This is only 10 years. I'm not paying." The bartender starts getting frustrated. After more and more drinks with the same reaction, the bartender serves another one and says, "This one's on the house." The man takes a sip and immediately spits it out. "This tastes like pee. Now tell me, how old am I?" My friend asked me, "You're offered 50 grand, but if you accept it, the person you hate the most in the world will get 100 grand. Are you taking it?" Me. "Of course. Why wouldn't I want 150 grand? Medvedev calls Putin, nervously telling him that it would be a good idea to get rid of time zones altogether. "Why?" Putin asks. "I fly to another city, call home, and everyone is asleep. I woke you up at 4 a.m., but I thought it was only evening." I call Angela Merkel to congratulate her on her birthday, and she tells me she had it yesterday. I wish the Chinese president a happy new year, and he says it will be tomorrow. "Indeed," Putin replies, "but that's only minor stuff. Remember when that Polish plane crashed with the president? I called them to express my condolences, but the plane hadn't taken off yet." A man wanted to increase his arm strength, so he decided to start a daily lifting routine. He started by holding a potato sack in each hand, lifting his arms from his sides and holding them up for 5 minutes. He repeated this simple exercise daily for a week. Feeling like he wasn't making much progress, at the start of the second week, he instead lifted 2 potato sacks in each hand. Each week, he would add another potato sack, so that just over a month in, he was holding 5 sacks in each hand. Finally, at the start of the 6th week, disappointed by the lack of results, he decided to make a drastic change to his routine. He went back down to 1 sack in each hand, but this time, he put a potato in each sack. A man walks into a bar and orders a free drink. The bartender says, "Sorry, mate, you have to pay up. I can't just serve a free drink." The man then whispers, "I have a 10-inch piano player in my pocket and he can play a little jig for you. If I can prove that, can I get the drink then?" The bartender ponders, but then agrees. The man pulls out the piano player and he plays the entertainer before hopping back in the man's pocket. Baffled, the bartender gives him the promised free drink. The man whispered, "I also have a magic genie who was the one that gave me this piano player. If I let him grant you one wish, can I get another free drink?" The bartender bartender, already in shock over the tiny piano man in his pocket, agrees. The man pulls out a lamp, and out comes a genie, ready to grant wishes. The bartender exclaims, "I want $1,000,000!" And all of a sudden, 1,000,000 ducks enter the bar. "Ducks! I didn't want ducks!" The bartender shouts. The man looks at him, dead in the eyes, and says, "You think I wanted a 10-inch pianist?" A doctor comes into a guy's hospital room. "Doctor, I've got good news and bad news." Patient, "Give me the bad news first, doc. I can take it." Doctor, "In order to save your life, we're gonna have to amputate both your legs." Patient, "My legs? Oh no." After a minute, he composes himself. Patient, "What could possibly be good news after that?" Doctor, "Well, you see that guy over there in the next bed? He wants to buy your slippers." A monocle walks into a bar. After a few drinks, he starts to feel pretty good and a little uncoordinated. He reaches for a cigarette, but the bartender stops him. "Sorry, buddy, but due to city ordinances, we don't allow smoking in here. You'll have to step outside to smoke." So the monocle hops off the bar stool and grabs his cigarettes to head outside. Meanwhile, a second monocle emerges from the bathroom. They bump into each other as they cross paths and fall to the floor, hopelessly entangled. They try to get free, but the more they struggle, the more tangled they become. The bartender looks down on this travesty and shakes his head. "Hey, you two," he shouts. "Stop making spectacles of yourselves." A lawyer married a woman who had previously divorced 10 husbands. On their wedding night, she told her new husband, "Please be gentle. I'm still a virgin." "What?" said the puzzled groom. "How can that be if you've been married 10 times? "Well, husband number 1 was a sales representative. He kept telling me how great it was going to be. Husband number 2 was in software services. He was never really sure how it was supposed to function, but he said he'd look into it and get back to me. Husband number 3 was from field services. He said everything checked out diagnostically, but he just couldn't get the system up. Husband number 4 was in telemarketing. Even though he knew he had the order, he didn't know when he would be able to deliver. Husband number 5 was an engineer. He understood the basic process, but wanted 3 years to research, implement, and design a new state-of-the-art method. Husband number 6 was from finance and administration. He thought he knew how, but he wasn't sure whether it was his job or not. Husband number 7 was in marketing. Although he had a nice product, he was never sure how to position it. Husband number 8 was a psychologist. All he ever did was talk about it. Husband number 9 was a gynecologist. All he did was look at it. Husband number 10 was a stamp collector. All he ever did was, God, I miss him. But now that I've married you, I'm really excited. Good, said the new husband. But why? You're a lawyer. This time I know I'm gonna get screwed. The FBI had an open position for an assassin. After all the background checks, interviews, and testing were completed, they had narrowed the field down to 3 possible agents. For the final test, the FBI agents took one of the men to a large metal door and handed him a gun. "We must know that you will follow your instructions no matter what the circumstances. Inside the room, you will find your wife sitting in a chair. We need you to kill her," the man said. "You can't be serious. I could never shoot my wife." The agent said, "Then you're not the right man for this job. Take your wife and go home." The second man was given the same instructions. He took the gun and went into the room. All was quiet for about 5 minutes. The man came out with tears in his eyes. "I tried, but I can't kill my wife." The agent said, "You don't have what it takes. Take your wife home." Finally, the last man was given the same instructions, to kill his wife. He took the gun and went into the room. Shots were heard, one after another. They heard screaming, crashing, banging on the walls. After a few minutes, all was quiet. The door opened slowly and there stood the man, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Some idiot loaded the gun with blanks," he said. "I had to strangle her to death." This woman goes into a funeral home to make arrangements for her husband's funeral. She tells the director that she wants her husband to be buried in a dark blue suit. He asks, wouldn't it just be easier to bury him in the black suit that he's wearing? But she insists that it must be a blue suit and gives him a blank check to buy one. When she comes back for the funeral, she sees her husband in the coffin and he is wearing a beautiful blue suit. She tells the funeral director how much she loves the suit and asks how much it cost. He says, actually, it didn't cost anything. The funniest thing happened. As soon as you left, another corpse was brought in. This one wearing a blue suit. I noticed that they were about the same size and asked the other widow if she would mind if her husband were buried in a black suit. She said that was fine with her, so I switched the heads. A guy wakes up with a massive hangover and stumbles into the kitchen, where he finds his wife. Hey honey, did you upgrade the bathroom? He asks. Why do you ask? She replies, curious. Well, I opened the bathroom door, the light turned on by itself, and a cool breeze blew right into my face. It was amazing. His wife glares at him and says, so you're the idiot who peed in the fridge last night. Guy sitting on the couch. From the kitchen he hears, babe, can you help me? He goes to the kitchen. What are you doing? She says, I'm trying to do this jigsaw puzzle. What's it supposed to be? He asks. She picks up the box. A rooster. Honey, he says, let's put the cornflakes back in the box. An old geezer who had been a retired farmer for a long time became very bored and decided to open a medical clinic. He put up a sign outside that said, get your treatment for $500. If not cured, get back $1,000, Dr. Young, who was positive that this old geezer didn't know beans about medicine. Thought this would be a great opportunity to get $1,000, so he went to the clinic. Dr. Young, Dr. Geezer, I have lost all taste in my mouth. Can you please help me? Dr. Geezer, nurse, please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in Dr. Young's mouth. Dr. Young, this is gasoline. Dr. Geezer, congratulations. You got your taste back? That will be $500. Dr. Young gets annoyed and goes back back after a couple of days, figuring to recover his money. Dr. Young, I have lost my memory. I cannot remember anything. Dr. Geezer, nurse, please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in the patient's mouth. Dr. Young, oh no you don't. That's gasoline. Dr. Geezer, congratulations. You've got your memory back. That will be $500. Dr. Young, after having lost $1,000, leaves angrily and comes back after several more days. Dr. Young, my eyesight has become weak. I can hardly see. Dr. Geezer, well, I don't have any medicine for that, so here's your gram back. Dr. Young, but this is only $500. Dr. Geezer, congratulations, you got your vision back. That will be $500. So a man goes to confess and admits to committing all 7 deadly sins in a single day. He confesses, I was trying to save up for my dream house, but someone bought it before I could. I got so furious and jealous that I disguised myself as a utility worker and went to his place while he was at work. I ended up seducing his wife, and while she was in the shower, I took all the cash and jewelry I could find. Then I raided the pantry, ate everything in sight, and took naps on and off until just before he came home. The priest asks, and what about pride? You seem to have left that one out. The man replies, why do you think I'm here bragging to you? A lawyer, sitting next to a girl on a long flight, was pestering her to play a game. I ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer, you pay me, and vice versa. The girl politely declined and tried to get some sleep. The lawyer made another offer. Okay, if you don't know the answer, you pay me $5, but if I don't know the answer, I will pay you $1,000. The girl agreed. The lawyer asked the first question, what's the distance from the earth to the moon? The girl silently reached into her purse, pulled out a $5 bill, and handed it to the lawyer. Then she asked the lawyer, what goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4, and went back to sleep. The lawyer did research on his iPhone, called his buddies, asked ChatGPT, etc., all to no avail. After over an hour, he gave up. He woke the girl up and handed her $1,000 and asked, well, so what is the answer? Again, without a word, the girl reached into her purse, handed the lawyer $5, and went back to sleep. A man goes to the doctors complaining of migraines and headaches. After giving the man a regular checkup and running some tests, the doctor eventually returned with 3 bottles, one with blue pills, one with green pills, and one with red pills. This is a month's supply of pills, the doctor explains. Every morning, take one of the blue pills with a large glass of water. Every lunchtime, take one of the green pills with another large glass of water. And at bedtime, take one of the red pills with another large glass of water. Concerned with the number of pills he's going to be taking, the man asks, what's wrong with me, doctor? You're too dehydrated. Called my wife to tell her I'd pick up fish and chips on my way home from work, but she hung up on me. She's still mad about letting me name our kids. A man walks into a bar and says, 4 drinks, please. The bartender asks, rough day? The man replies, yeah, I just found out that my brother is gay. The bartender says, well, everyone has their own path. The next day, the man walks into the bar again and says, 4 drinks, please. The bartender asks, another rough day? The man replies, yeah, I just found out that my oldest son is gay. The bartender says, well, that's his choice. On the 3rd day, the man walks into the bar again and says, 4 drinks, please. The bartender says, my God, another rough day. The man replies, yeah, I just found out that my youngest son is gay. The bartender says, it's totally up to him who he's attracted to. The 4th day comes around, and the man walks into the bar again and says, 4 drinks, please. The bartender asks, doesn't anyone in your family like women? The man replies, yeah, my wife does. 911, what is your emergency? Help! I was hunting in the woods with my friend, and he suddenly dropped dead for no reason. Oh my goodness, I'm freaking out. Calm down, sir. We'll get you through this. The first thing we need to do is make sure that your friend really is dead. All right, hold on a second. Okay, now what? I was standing at the bar at an international airport when this small Chinese guy comes in, stands next to me, and starts drinking a beer. I asked him, do you know any of those martial arts things, like kung fu, karate, or jujitsu? He says, no. Why on earth would you ask me that? Is it because I'm Chinese? No, I said. It's because you're drinking my beer, you little... In a small town out west, an old priest became tired of listening to all the details when parishioners would confess that they had committed adultery. So he asked everyone to simply say, I've fallen, during their confession. This code word was then used for many years. Eventually, the old priest retires, and a new one took his place. During his first week, the new priest starts to get concerned because everyone is complaining about falling. So the priest went to see the town mayor and suggested that maybe the sidewalks needed repairs to prevent people from falling so often. The mayor starts laughing because he realizes that the new priest doesn't know that fallen is a code word. The confused priest then says, I don't know why you're laughing, because your own wife fell down 3 times this week. A guy walked into the restroom at a restaurant in LA and realized that the guy at the sink washing his hands was Frank Sinatra. He greeted Frank and told him he was a huge fan. Frank smiled and thanked him. Then he told Frank he was with a date and wanted to impress her. Telling Frank his name was Bob, he asked Frank if he could come and greet him by name at his table. No problem, said Frank, and he went back to his table. About 10 minutes later, Frank walked up to the table and said, hey Bob, long time no see. Without looking up, Bob said, screw off, Frankie. Can't you see I'm busy? A woman goes to buy a parrot and notices the prices are $100, $200, and $15. Curious, she asks why the last one is so cheap. The shopkeeper replies, that one used to live in a brothel. Amused, she decides to buy it for $15. When she brings the parrot home, it immediately says, well, I'll be damned, a new brothel. The woman can't help but laugh. Later, when her daughters arrive home, the parrot chirps, well, look at that, 2 new ladies of the night. The girls burst into laughter too. But when the dad walks in, the parrot exclaims, well, I'll be damned, Pete. Long time no see. That wife of mine is a liar, said the angry husband to a sympathetic pal seated next to him in the bar. How do you know? The friend asked. She didn't come home last night, and when I asked her where she'd been, she said she'd spent the night with her sister Shirley. So she's a liar. I spent the night with her sister Shirley. A major is standing by a vending machine. A private walks past, and the major says, say there, soldier. Do you have 4 quarters for $1? Sure thing, dude. Give me a moment, says the private. Dude, yells the major. Do you not see the gold leaf on my shoulder? Stand to attention when you talk to me and address me according to my rank. Sir, yes, sir, replies the private, coming promptly to attention. That's better, soldier. Now, as I was saying, do you happen to have 4 quarters for $1? Sir, I do not, sir, yells the private. A man poked his head into a barber shop and asked, how long until I can get a haircut? Glancing at the full shop, the barber replied, around 2 hours. The man left. A week later, the same guy stuck his head in the shop and asked, how long before I can get a haircut? The barber looked around the shop and said, about an hour and a half. The guy left. The barber turned to his friend and said, hey Bob, do me a favor. Follow him and see where he goes. He keeps asking how long he has to wait for a haircut, but he never comes back. A little while later, Bob returned to the shop, laughing hysterically. The barber asked, so, where does he go when he leaves? Bob looked up, wiped the tears from his eyes and said, your house.